Me, 35M, with my wife, 33F, of 9 years, wants to give up our daughters for adoption. Using a throwaway because I'm pretty active in some other subreddits and don't want this associated with my main account. My wife and I have been together since college and got married a little while after she graduated. When we first got together, she told me she didn't really like kids, and while I was a little disappointed, I didn't care too much about it. I didn't feel very strongly about it either way. We were very in love, and things were perfect for a good while. Her birth control failed 6 years ago, and I told her that I would support whatever choice she made. She scheduled an abortion, but she backed out the day before, and we became loving and enthusiastic parents. Later on down the road, she decided she wanted another child, and so we had our second daughter. They are 5 and 3 years old, and absolutely perfect. They are both very well behaved and ahead of the curve for many kids their age. Another thing that's worth mentioning, my wife is a stay-at-home mom. My job is very demanding, and I am out of town for week-long stretches at a time once a month, and then 9 to 6 for the rest of the month. I've had this schedule since we were married, basically. I make good money in the low 6 figures, and we've never had any kind of financial struggles. For the past few months, I've known something was up with my wife. She is obviously the primary caretaker of our daughters, but recently she's been completely hands-off when I'm at home. I don't mind spending the extra time with my daughters, taking care of them, but it's more than that. She will completely ignore them while I'm around. If they ask her for anything at all, she tells them, "Go ask daddy," and will go in our bedroom and lock the door to get away from them. I've been asking her if she's alright, and she had been insisting everything was fine until last night. After we put the kids to bed, she came to me and sat me down at the table. She started talking about fun things we had done right after we got married, what a great adventure everything had been, just generally reminiscing. She was being sweet and funny and loving, and my guard was down. She said, "Back before we had the girls, we could do anything we wanted. I wish we could go back to that." I asked her what she meant, and after much prodding, she admitted that she regretted having kids. I said that there were times where I felt overwhelmed too, but that I would always love our daughters. She got quiet, and then she mumbled something, and I asked her to say it again. And she yelled, "I don't love them," and then started sobbing. I sat there with my mouth hanging open. She composed herself and then started talking again. She was saying how she had been looking into adoption agencies and foster care. She had contacted one agency already. She was making plans to give away my children. I continued to listen, too dumbfounded to even say a word, as she babbled on about how amazing it's going to be to have our lives back, how great our relationship will be when we don't have kids anymore. I didn't know what to do. I let her talk herself out, and when she went to bed, I went and got my babies, packed some things, and drove to my mother's house. I called in sick today. I told them I'd possibly be out for the rest of the week. I have a ton of missed calls, voicemails, and texts from my wife. I haven't looked at any of them. I've spent the day talking to my mom about things and keeping the girls occupied. My mom doesn't know what to do either. I'm thinking I have a couple of options. Start calling lawyers or start calling mental health professionals. Maybe both. I don't know if she's having some kind of psychotic delusion or if she's just that awful of a person. I really don't want to go back home to her now, ever. I'm thinking divorce is the best choice, but I can't take care of my kids on my own. What should my next move be? Should I try to call my wife? Edit. Additional info. She's not at home all the time with them. They go to pre-K for 6 hours a day, 4 days a week. My mom takes them pretty much every other weekend. She gets a lot of time to herself, even though it could be more, and on nights when I'm home, she goes out with her friends often. And lately, when I'm home, she doesn't see the kids at all. It's still possible that she's overwhelmed, but she's not the isolated, barefoot and pregnant chained to the stove woman you're all picturing here. We've both always been pretty low libido. I would say we have sex once a week and we try to have date night every other week, leaving the girls with my mother. We are very affectionate towards one another too. She graduated with an art degree. When we first got married, she was working as a teacher and she taught English and art in a local high school. She hated it and she quit when she was pregnant with our first. She has a studio in our house, basically an extra bedroom with all her art stuff in it that the kids aren't allowed in, and she paints when the kids are out of the house. She feels like her degree is useless, but told me she wasn't interested in going back to school. We used to pay for a weekly maid service, but my wife decided she didn't want to spare the expense. I'm just looking for input right now. Honestly, I feel like her response to this situation was completely out of line and nearly unbelievable, and I'm not sure I want to continue a relationship with someone who considers giving away her kids before even asking for help. She has constantly denied that anything was wrong, and apparently put up a front to make me think that she wasn't struggling. Here is some additional info from OP in the comment section. It's not like I forced her to have kids. She chose not to have an abortion, and she herself chose to have a second child. She approached me about it. She was so happy when I said yes, let's do it. She never asked for any help. She didn't let on that things weren't perfect until the last few months when I repeatedly asked her if things were okay. She bottled up her feelings until she was ready to give up on our kids and was making real plans about it behind my back. Everybody's acting like I'm the bad guy here for working long hours, but it's not that simple. Whatever direction things take, I will absolutely be hiring a nanny. Update 1. I second-guessed myself a little after the initial responses I was getting from my first post. I didn't expect anybody to side with my wife. I should have given more information from the start, but I didn't realize all that stuff would be relevant. I thought from the fact that she was trying to adopt out our kids without my knowledge, people would realize that the issue was with her. I'm not trying to say I'm perfect by any means, but I took a lot of unwarranted criticism. Anyway, after I elaborated on our situation a little more, I got a ton of helpful advice and support. Thank you to everyone who commented or sent me a PM. I took a lot of the advice to heart. This update is going to be long. A lot of really crazy stuff has happened. I am in the process of finding a live-in nanny now, and I appreciate everyone who suggested it. Yesterday, I contacted a lawyer for advice, and then bit the bullet and called my wife. One of my close friends lives a few houses down, so I explained the situation and had him on standby. I left my daughters with my mom and came back to the house to meet with her. She was absolutely furious. The first words out of her mouth were, "Where the F have you been, you POS?" When I got to the house, she berated me for leaving without saying a word to her or answering the phone. She accused me of cheating on her, called me a pig and an a-hole, and ranted for a good 15 minutes straight. And she didn't say a word about the kids, didn't ask me where they were or if I had taken them. It's like she had forgotten they existed. I cut her off, told her where I had been and that I had taken the girls to my mother's house. She seemed caught off guard, and then she asked me why. I explained to her that the way she had talked about adopting them out was not acceptable, and since she didn't care about them, I didn't think they were safe around her. She blinked and said word for word, "Wait, you want to keep them? Don't you love me?" And I lost it. I'm not proud of it, but I couldn't hold it together, Reddit. It devolved into a screaming fight, with me telling her she was effing insane, and her yelling that I didn't love her. I went through the house and packed up all of my valuables and personal documents, with her screaming her head off at me the whole time. My friend came in to try and calm her down, but she threw a plate at him and told him to get the F out. At this point, I called the cops, and she dug her hole deeper by punching one of the cops and then biting the other one once she was cuffed. I am now 100% certain that she is having some kind of psychotic break. She will be evaluated soon, but either way, I'm going through with the divorce. I doubt I'll have any trouble getting full custody, especially with that call to the adoption agency or her phone records. After my wife was arrested, I cleaned up the house and brought my daughters back home. They haven't asked where mommy is yet, but I don't know what to tell them when they do. I'm looking into taking a lower responsibility role at work, at least to where I'm not gone for a whole week at a time. I will still be heavily reliant on a nanny, but I can't stand the thought of my daughters not having a parent there to put them to bed every night. Edit. Growing up, my father was a schizophrenic. I'm not interested in putting my daughters through what I went through. Even if she gets treatment, it will be a constant worry for me. If she had cancer or some other illness, it wouldn't affect her love for our daughters. I wouldn't have to worry that she would murder them or abandon them or hurt them when I wasn't around. That's the difference. Edit 2. I called my mom and she said she told my daughters that their mommy had to go on a trip for a little while. That's why they haven't asked about her so far. Update 2. My wife has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. She is undergoing extensive therapy and trying to work out her legal issues as well. I'm still not sure what direction that is going to take. My wife's parents have been helping her with legal arrangements as she refuses help from me and didn't even want to use my insurance to help with her medical bills. She ended up having to anyway, and I've been sending her parents money to help with paying what's left over. We mutually decided to go ahead with the divorce. She didn't want custody of our daughters or even visitation. I practically begged her to at least come to their birthdays and holidays, but she said no. I'm hoping that it's a symptom of her illness and that once she progresses through her treatment enough, she will change her mind, but I'm not going to hold my breath. I found a wonderful au pair who is fantastic with my daughters. According to her, they're very self-sufficient and don't need much help with keeping themselves entertained or anything really. I suspect my wife had been ignoring the girls even when I wasn't around. They've been constantly asking me when mommy is coming back and I don't know what to tell them. I have to try really hard not to cry in front of them because I don't want them to worry about me. We've been going to family therapy together, but still haven't found a way to explain that mommy might never come back, or that she may show back up and not be nice, or she may even show back up and be her old self again. My friend, the one she threw the plate at, and his wife and kids have been hanging out at my place a lot to keep us all company. He has been a godsend throughout this whole experience. He decided not to press charges against my wife for the plate thing, and this will probably be my last update. The feedback I've gotten from you guys has really helped to ground me during these events. Even just getting validation that I'm not crazy helped. Thanks for everything, Reddit. I don't really know what to say here. This one was a roller coaster. I'm happy that the daughters are safe. I'm happy that OP still has custody. I'm happy that the wife is going to get care and treatment, but the daughters now have to grow up without their mother, and that is the worst part. But it seems like, as OP mentioned, he's got the nanny, the au pair, his friend's family, so he's got a good support system, his mother as well. So, I mean, best possible ending, right? Emphasis on the word possible and feasible, right? Like, given everything that's happened, this is probably the best way it could have turned out. Anyway, next story. Story number 2. I had my promotion offer retracted because my boss learned I was getting married. First ever Reddit post. I'll try and make all of this understandable. Posting this here too, as I don't really have anyone to vent about this. Background: 22F works for a fast food chain for the past 2.5 years and engaged since May of 2019. So, back in January, my manager brought me into the office and offered me a promotion. She was relaying the info from the owner. The promotion was to become a shift manager at one of the other restaurants in my city. I would obviously get a pay raise and better hours, more consistent, and various other perks. I initially told her I needed to think about taking it, but I was definitely excited and enthusiastic. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago. I had a meeting with her to discuss some options I had about the job. What benefits, where I was working, training, etc. One of my questions was whether it was reasonable to request as a part of my new contract to have the week of my wedding off in August. She said absolutely, and would ask the owner for me if that could be written into the contract. Wednesday, I go into her office to ask about any new info or developments. She shut the door and said that the offer had been retracted and I would not be getting the promotion. She explained that the owner had decided to retract the offer after learning I was getting married, and that a young woman getting married means she's going to get pregnant. She also said that if you are a man, we would not be having this conversation. I was, and still am, absolutely gobsmacked. It's the first time in my life that I've ever felt any sexism or discrimination based on my gender in my entire life. I am so freaking angry. I've essentially now lost my job. Still currently employed there, but I have no desire to continue working there whatsoever. I feel utterly disgusting and somewhat dirty, even though I did nothing wrong. I love working there, and all the people at my restaurant have done nothing wrong to me. But it's the fact that I would be working for an owner that's so blatantly sexist. I've gone and sought legal advice at an equality organization in my city, and I am waiting for a response from the person in charge. I've also opened a complaint in my company's HR department, who have asked me to contact the owner directly to understand exactly why I haven't gotten this promotion. They said that I/my manager may have misunderstood the reason why. But thank you so much for reading. Not sure what outcome I want from all of this, but I just had to get it all off my chest. Update. So obviously a lot has happened between my first post on this and this one, so I'll do my best to summarize the past 2 years of my life. February 2020, had an in-person meeting with my manager, the owner of the restaurant, franchise, and a supposed mediator. I legally recorded the audio of the meeting. This part is important, and I was very unhappy with the outcome with the meeting. Felt like no one listened to me, and I was bullied by the higher-ups into making this all go away. March 2020, after this all went down, I sought a lawyer at a local union firm who agreed to take on my case. Due to the laws in my country, Switzerland, my case was classed as a civil one between two individuals. So there would be no criminal consequences, and my monetary compensation would be limited to 3-month salary, as written in Swiss law. Between March and August 2020, lots of back and forth between my lawyer and my ex-employer, basically denying all responsibility and not wanting to do anything, etc. August 2020, again, as per Swiss law, a mediation meeting was set up between myself, my boss, and the lawyers in front of a judge. The judge was purely there to help keep things civil if necessary, no say whatsoever. This mediation meeting lasted 15 minutes, with my boss's lawyer refusing to budge. My boss didn't even turn up to the meeting. Since we couldn't come to an agreement, I was given permission to file a former case, which meant a judge would hear my case and rule on it. Between August 2020 and May 2021, hardly any news from either side. The pandemic slowed everything to a snail's pace, so I was told to just wait while all the administrative cogs turned. May 2021, the big day. My case was heard in front of a judge, with witnesses called from both sides to testify and lots of evidence filed, from my side at least. My key piece of evidence was this audio recording, in which my boss and manager basically put their foot in it. The judge asked them to both explain themselves, with neither giving very convincing arguments to defend themselves. I stood in court and told my account of the story, staring my boss right in the face. Between May 2021 and February 2022, more waiting. I knew the law was slow, but geez Louise, at this point I had put the case to the back of my mind. And February 7th, 2022, my state's civil court ruled in my favor. I won. I took my boss to court over discrimination and a judge found him liable. I won. I can't believe to describe how incredible it feels. I cried on the phone with my lawyer when she called me to tell me the news. It was never about the money. It was always about accountability and acknowledgement. I am so proud of myself for pursuing this despite the odds being stacked against me. Discrimination is incredibly hard to prove. Too bad I had that recording, wink wink. To all those 2 years ago that commented and supported me, thank you. My ex-employer was found guilty of discrimination behavior, as so written in Swiss law, and ordered to pay compensation. I know my story is one of thousands out there, with so many of them never receiving the justice or recognition they deserve. But I hope this gives confidence to others. We can do it. I liked this story. We haven't had some good legal drama on here in a while, and I'm glad that it ended this way because discrimination sucks. And honestly, we should just record every conversation ever. We should record every human on the planet. You know what I'm saying? And besides, what could go wrong with that? Hail Hydra. Next story. Story number 3. My soon-to-be ex-husband humiliated me on our wedding day and met his karma instantly. It's been 2 days since my wedding day. I had already been with him for 4 years, 1 year of which I was engaged. It all started a few months earlier when I noticed my husband, Jake, watching prank videos. Among other things, these videos showed embarrassing photos of the bride being played on a projector in front of the whole room or the bride's face being smashed into the cake. I told him straight away that I didn't want anything like that at our wedding. He just laughed and said that he wasn't planning anything like that. I thought that was the end of it, but I kept catching him making strange arrangements with his friends. He suddenly wanted to choose the wedding photographer and the cake. I thought nothing of it and was just glad that he was helping me with the wedding preparations. Nevertheless, I reminded him the day before that if he did something like that, I would break up with him immediately. When the day of the wedding came, everything went smoothly until the ceremony. Until the moment came when the cake was to be cut. The whole room watched as I made the first cut and the photographer stood in front of us with a camera in hand. Suddenly, I felt a hand on the back of my head pushing me face first into the cake. Not only my makeup, but the whole wedding dress was ruined, and the whole room laughed. My husband, the loudest. At that moment, the photographer took the photo, and Jake said that this was now our wedding photo. I turned around, slapped him in the face, and ran out of the room in tears. Thank God karma didn't take long to arrive and came in the form of his own brother. I ran to the toilet and started crying when I suddenly heard loud shouting from the hall. It was his brother Frank. I could barely understand what he was saying, and when I left the toilet, he was waiting for me. He told me that Jake had something to tell me. Jake was shaking and apologized without even looking me in the eye. Frank told him to look me in the eye and apologize again. Even I was a bit scared of Frank at that moment because I had always thought of him as a kind and gentle man. I had never seen him angry before. Jake apologized again, and then Frank led us back into the hall, which was suddenly very quiet, and most of our families looked down at the floor a little embarrassed. The festivities were cut short, and I was taken home by Frank because I was too angry with my husband and I didn't want to see him. During the ride home, Frank apologized for blowing up like that. He explained that my husband was horrible, even back when they were younger, and used every special occasion to humiliate Frank. When it was Frank's birthday, my husband would throw his cake at him and break his presents. But back then, their parents always brushed it all off by saying that's just how brothers behave. So he had to endure every humiliation. But when he saw my husband bury my face in the cake, he was fed up because he realized that my husband was just a bad person who got his satisfaction from humiliating others. I then asked Frank if he thought it would be an exaggeration if I separated from my husband over this, and he said no, because according to him, I deserved better, and he didn't care how his brother felt about it because he had brought it on himself. Then he told me that if I needed help collecting my things, he would help me and gave me his number. And I decided to separate from my husband and file for a divorce and informed Jake and my family about it. Jake just told me not to do that because it was just a harmless prank. I was spammed by both his family and mine that it would be a ridiculous thing to end our marriage over this, but I see it differently. If he does something like this to me, despite multiple requests not to do it, even after promising he wouldn't do it, then I can't trust him, no matter what he promises me. I have to assume that the opposite can and will happen, and that he doesn't care at all how I feel about his decisions. This situation can be projected onto so many much more worse situations where it would be important for me to be able to trust him. His brother Frank seems to be the only one who supports me now, and I will go through with the divorce. Call me humorless, call me what you want, but I have given my reasons. Here are some relevant comments. User 1 said, "Stay strong. Honestly, I'd go no contact with those that are gaslighting you. They are disrespectful too." OP said, "It's hard going no contact with most of my family members, but I thought about keeping Frank around as a friend, even if he is the brother of my ex." Update. Many of you asked for an update, so here it is. Read the original post if you haven't already done that. Many of you pointed out that I could get an annulment. Don't ask me why I didn't think of this earlier, but after you guys pointed it out, I planned on doing that. Haven't done it yet, but it will happen in the next few weeks. It will probably be much more easier than a divorce. With that being said, what happened now? So a day after I wrote the original post, I went to Jake's apartment to get my stuff. I slept over at my best friend's house in the meanwhile. Of course, I also took up Frank's offer to help me getting my stuff. And when we arrived there, Jake pleaded with me that it was just a prank and he didn't mean to hurt me. But the only thing I could think about is how he broke my trust before and how I couldn't trust him now if he told me he didn't mean to hurt me. When he saw Frank, his face turned red and he yelled at Frank and accused him of poisoning me against him. Don't worry, Jake, you did this yourself. He argued with Frank for a while, and Frank confronted him with everything he did to him during his childhood. He told Frank to grow a pair, and that he should forget about what happened back then. Ironic when he's the one who never changed, and is just as bad as before. He constantly tried to talk to me, but Frank stood in his way and talked over him, and when we left, I saw how angrily he smashed the door. Apparently, he now spreaded lies to his family that Frank tried to steal me away from him. Luckily, I was able to see who he really was before it was too late. What a coincidence that after this incident, my family spammed me with messages as well about how we should talk to a therapist instead of breaking up over this. They only stopped when I threatened to cut them off too. I also didn't plan to share this with you, but so many people suggested it that I thought I could at least ask him. So after we got my stuff, I asked Frank out. but he rejected me, telling me that he's already dating someone else. I just wanted to tell you this so you can stop asking. But also, I'm honestly kinda glad this was his answer, because it means he didn't help me because there was a malicious intent behind it, but more because he is simply a good person. Regardless, I told him about my post here, and Frank told me he read many of your comments. He said he liked your comments and that you made his day. I thought you might want to know this. Also, this is probably the first and last update of this. I just want to get this behind me and look forward. But thank you all for your support. Edit. If you want to call my story fake because I asked Frank out, feel free. I just acted on what many of you asked me to do, and I thought to myself that asking him once doesn't hurt anyone, and maybe may lead to a much healthier relationship if he said yes. I am not in the best state of mind right now, and will now leave this account be, so don't be surprised if I don't respond anymore. My story will stay here, and hopefully raise awareness for many people who are in similar situations with toxic partners, no matter if they're male or female. I wish you all the best. So we've read this story somewhat recently, but we did not read it with the updates, so the entire second half was new. And I said the first time, anyone named Frank, they just get stuff done. Whether that's an evil Frank or a good Frank, I don't know what it is, but Franks do stuff. And now she asked Frank out because the internet can't help but ship anybody who has any sort of connection. Oh my god. But all in all, good for OP. She got at the annulment, presumably so. She got rid of the ex-husband, and thankfully she did it early enough on, because could you imagine that this guy revealed his true colors 10 years down the line or with kids? Oh my goodness, what a mess. But anyway, oh, I got it. I'll leave you all with a very important question. Would you rather your first name be Frank, your middle name be Frank, or your last name be Frank? Women, you can answer this question too. Don't worry, everyone's included. You can also choose multiple Franks in your name if you'd like. But anyway, thanks for watching. Bye-bye! We, 34F, 35M, opened our relationship, and now I think my husband prefers our girlfriend. I'm 34F, and my husband 35M. We have been together for 14 years. We have a 7 and 3-year-old together. 3 years ago, my husband got, well, I don't want to say bored, but I'm not sure what else to call it. So after a while, mostly begging on his part, I accepted to introduce a third into our marriage. We can call her Harper. 25F. Husband knew Harper before everything. She's his sister's friend, another awkward story, and it's been 3 years. I love Harper. She's like crazy sweet. The children love her. We do girl trips, split everything 50-50, go shopping. But husband most definitely prefers Harper. He pushes her to do exercise, to diet, to dress pretty, but she's also the first one he'll text if he gets good/bad news. She's the first one he'll greet when he gets home. They go on dates once a week. My husband said it's because Harper insisted and I didn't. I confronted my husband, and he said he just feels there's more intimacy, and like she's his best friend. I pointed out I'm the mother of his children. He used to say I was his best friend. He said he loves both of us, but feels this warmth when he thinks of Harper. Harper doesn't leave me out of anything. She's always going out of her way to include me, to spoil the children and make sure everything is equal. I don't know what to do, because I love Harper. I just want my husband to need me like he used to. I want to be my husband's favorite. All advice welcome. 1, this story's too short. 2, she says that she wants her husband back and that Harper is being there more for the husband, but she doesn't specify what she's trying to do to get her husband back. Harper's always there for him, but she doesn't say if she's there for him. But also, 3, the fact that she's 10 years younger and he's known her for a long time and she's his sister's friend, like, what? Something's going on there. It's a little suspicious. That's all I'm saying. I need more details on this one. Okay, next story. Story number 2. My 48M ex-wife 47F has reached out to me after years. We were married for 7 years and divorced about 15 years ago. The reason at the time was our vision for the future wasn't compatible. I wanted a family, white picket fence, etc. She wanted to remain free and travel until her last day. FYI, at the time we were married and she shared my side of the vision. There is a cliche about remaining friends, but honestly, I think we did at the beginning. She met someone and married him in 2010. He was older and had money and gave her that lifestyle. We were close enough that I was invited to the wedding and made a brief toast. Obviously, with him in her life, we drifted apart and basically played Facebook tag. When we divorced, I was depressed and got therapy. But after she was married and gallivanting around Europe and the Caribbean, I got really depressed. Therapy only helped so much. It took about 5 years to really pull through and be myself again. I tried dating again, and it never worked out. I honestly felt that I could never have been happier with anyone than I was with her. I regretted putting my foot down about how I wanted to live. Meanwhile, she was Facebook documenting their attempts to get pregnant, the one thing she was dead set against at all costs, to the point that she wanted to get her tubes tied just in case. Fertilization clinics, IVF, etc., but nothing took. They announced they had gotten a surrogate to carry their child, and tragically, the child was stillborn. Her husband passed away privately in 2021. People only found out a month after his very private burial. I messaged her saying I would be there for her if she needed someone to talk to. I did not hear back. Aside from posting inspirational messages, etc., she went dark. On my birthday this year, I received a card from her wishing me a happy birthday, thanking me for being such an important part of her life, and saying maybe we'll be in touch soon. This last Friday, she called me. It was the first time I spoke to her directly in over a decade. It was light conversation. I didn't bring up much of the last 10 years, but she asked if I was free to get a coffee or a drink today, Tuesday. She was going to be back near where I lived Monday through Thursday, and I agreed. Since then, we've texted a bit back and forth, being slightly more intimate. I get the sense she's testing the waters, so to speak, to see if there is any interest there. From my end, it is a double-edged sword. There really would be interest in seeing where it might go, but I don't think I could handle losing her a second time. I've asked a few friends and they've been split down the middle. Don't get involved again versus see what happens. What do you think? Has anyone ever been in the situation where a relationship was rekindled after so long? And what did you do? What red flags or things to worry about should I be looking for? I have been in this situation, sir, and I will tell you what I did. I fumbled it and dropped it was a mess. I ruined it. I miss her so much. Oh my God. Next story. Story number 3. My 20F single mother, 44F, is pregnant. I am so angry and upset, and I have no idea how to voice this. I, 20F, am a full-time college student, and I live at home. My living at home is largely because my mother has 3 children that are younger than I am, and she works a ton, and when she's not working, she's sleeping. So I am essentially their primary caregiver. It is to the point where I watch and take care of my little siblings more than my mom does, and they listen to me more than they do her. I love them more than life itself, but being a caregiver to children I never had is exhausting, especially since she pays me very, very little for it, and I can't get a job because they'd have nowhere to go if I did. I am stuck caring for them, but it is worth it because they need a mom figure. My mom has been acting weird lately, so I figured she was pregnant. I found a paper in her bag that confirmed just that, and I have no idea what to do. I cannot take care of another child that I had no say in creating. I can't do it. I'm exhausted and I just can't. She's only been with her boyfriend for a couple of months, and I have no doubt that he'll leave and leave her a single mom again, which will make me have to step up and be a parent. If I have to do it all over again, I want to get a job and leave. Even if I have to juggle a full-time job in college, it seems like the better option. But my mother will likely refuse to get childcare for my little siblings, and my oldest little siblings are too young to have to deal with this, and I can't leave them here alone. I want to voice this to her, but I don't even know what I'm expecting, and I'm terrified that it'll completely shatter our already shaky relationship. What do I do? She hasn't even announced it to us yet, but I've been sobbing non-stop since I found out. Do I say something? And if so, how do I say it? You go up to her and be like, Mom, what are you doing, girl? Like, come on, chill out, use a condom. No, that's insensitive. I have no idea. Usually I pretend to be wise and have wisdom, but I really don't know how to tackle this situation. But I feel like she should essentially tell her mother what she's doing, saying, hey, I'm practically taking care of these kids, and I'm not going to do it again. And truth be told, you're not really taking care of these kids, so either you need to take care of that baby or, I don't know, something needs to change, Mom. Anyway, next story. Story number 4. I, 34F, was stabbed, and now my soon-to-be ex-husband, 34M, wants to cancel the divorce. My soon-to-be ex-husband and I have been married for 12 years. We got married at 22. About 4 months ago, he asked me for a divorce after confessing to me that he was having an affair and that he was in love with that person. At first, I took it badly, but I have always said that if there's a third person in a relationship, someone is left out. I also didn't want to waste my energy begging for something I know won't come back. His mother got sick, and I had to take care of her at night since the lady is quite picky with other people. She always treated me badly, but I still took care of her. This delayed the divorce a bit. I guess they were using me as a nurse or babysitter. Anyway, a month and a half ago, I was assaulted when I was going to work. I don't have a car. My husband always drove me, but he stopped after filing for divorce. I didn't have much with me, just my cell phone and about $10. So I was stabbed for not carrying much in your pockets. LATAM moment. My emergency contact was my husband in the whole thing. He now doesn't want a divorce since he says that this altercation has opened his eyes and that he really can't imagine a life without me. It was going to be an uncontested divorce since this type of divorce is totally free in my country and I'm stingy enough to not want to pay a lawyer's fees. But now he doesn't want a divorce. I'm living with my mother and soon-to-be ex-husband comes every day to screw up my existence. What do I do to get rid of it? I already made it clear to him that I don't want anything from him. Besides, I already hired a lawyer to advise me, but he says it's taking too long because he doesn't want a divorce. Alright, here's what you do. You stab him. Right? You wouldn't expect that. That's a plot twist. He's like, babe, why would you stab me? She's like, I don't love you anymore. Bye, and then leave. But nowhere vital. Give him a chance to live. If he comes back again, well then, okay, I shouldn't say it in a YouTube video. Next story. Story number 5. My 36F daughter's 18F friend, 18F, stole a $4,900 watch from my husband, 56M, and we don't know how to tell her parents. Our daughter, 18F, has been friends with this girl, 18F, for about 8 or 9 months, and in the last few months, she has started inviting her to our house more often because they are classmates, and sometimes they have projects to do together. Well, last week, she came to our house and my husband, 56M, was helping them with a project, since they are studying the same thing he studied. And at one point, my youngest daughter came home with her friends, so my eldest daughter and her friend went to my husband's office. And according to him, he had taken off his watch and left it on his desk. And our daughter saw it, so he was right. But when her friend left, the watch was gone. And after searching for it throughout the household, I, 36F, decided to check the security cameras, and she took it when she was left alone in the office for less than 5 seconds. To my surprise, my daughter wasn't surprised because according to her, this is the 3rd time that valuable things have disappeared from our house. The first 2 times, she noticed a small pair of gold earrings and a gold necklace for my daughter, and she thought she lost them because honestly, she loses her things all the time. But my daughter is sure that her necklace and earrings were in her jewelry box and that her friend took them. And now my husband and I don't know if we should tell her parents since she has stolen a significant sum of money from our house. And the last thing we want is to get the police involved. We just want to get our stuff back and help her get help because she clearly has a problem. How can you talk to parents about this without them feeling offended? In total, she stole almost $6,000 from our house, and that's not right. But she's young and we want to give her another chance. That's why we're not going to involve the police, and that's why we also want to talk to her parents. What would be the correct way to face this situation? Edit. Just to clarify, they are in college and the decision not to involve the police has to do with that. We don't want to affect her academically. And I say that we want to talk to her parents because she still lives with them and they are the ones who pay everything for her. Alright, here's what you do. You just say, hey, can we talk? And then you show them the footage in person or you email it. It's probably better to do it in person. Like, you don't say anything, just say, I would like to show you something about your daughter. Like, oh my God, is that my Susan? I'm like, yes. Now, then you feel it out. You feel it out, see what happens, see what they say. And then if they start getting like, that's not my daughter, even though it clearly is, then you say, hey, I don't want to get the police involved. I just want my stuff back. So we can either do this the easy way or the hard way. But what you do is you show them the footage and don't accuse them of anything. Then you go from there. Next story. Me, 36F, and my husband, 56M, and I decided to talk to her 18F parents in their 40s because she lives with them and we thought telling them was the best thing. Well, according to them, they suspected that she was doing something wrong because she was receiving more and more gifts from my daughter every day, because that's what she said they were. We told them that our daughter only gave her a bracelet that was a birthday gift, but that the rest of the things were never gifted. And fortunately, they weren't offended and even promised to check her room to see if they could find our things. When they checked her room and her electronics, they found even more things than we thought. She has been stealing things from our house for months to sell them online on a secondhand clothing sales app. At home, we live with 4 teenagers, 18, 16, 14, and 12, who are constantly exchanging clothes, shoes, and jewelry, and often have arguments because one of them takes something from the other without permission. So, when she stole several of my daughter's clothes, they never suspected it was her. She sold all the clothes she stole from them and only had my daughter's earrings and necklace, a ring for my youngest daughter, 8, and my husband's watch in her house. According to her, she did that because she wanted to help her father with some debts that he has because she didn't want to have to sacrifice college to reduce expenses. She works as a nanny, and sometimes that money wasn't enough to help her family, and she noticed that since my daughter wasn't affected by losing jewelry, so she thought about taking them because she needed them more. Her parents confirmed that they have a debt, but they would have never have thought she would do something like this to help. They apologized and promised to return every penny of the things that were already sold, but my husband told them that it was not necessary, that her giving us back the jewelry and the watch was enough. She gave us everything back and also apologized, and we told her that this time we were not going to involve the police, but not that everyone would do the same if they caught her stealing again. We also made it clear to her that she's no longer welcome in our home, and that my daughter will finish the project for both of them because we don't want her to be involved with her either. And that was it, and we haven't heard from her since. A lot of people said we were idiots for not getting the police involved, and the truth is, we might be. But we weren't going to ruin an entire family's life over a watch and some earrings. I also read comments saying that my daughter knew that she stole, but that is not the case. She loses things all the time, or sometimes her sister takes her things without permission, so she never suspected that her friend was the one stealing from her. That's why she kept inviting her over. I feel like the parents did the right thing. Honestly, if I was in their position, I would have done that. Now, if she stole my car or something, you're going to jail, girl. But if the almost $5,000 watch disappeared, then maybe I'd be like, or if the watch got sold, then maybe I'd be like, okay, we got to call 911 about this. But if she does it again, call him up. But I don't think an 18-year-old should be ruined for life for a mistake, even though it's a big one. Anyway, next story. Story number 6. I, 28F, refused to sign my marriage license at my wedding to 28M, and now I think I should leave him. It's been 1 month since my 28F wedding with Fred, 28M, and I am refusing to sign our marriage license, and now I am honestly considering leaving him. For 6 years, I believed Fred and I were on the same page about what we wanted from another and our future. We agreed. As he's made this point as well, we didn't want children, ever, and made it clear that before and during wedding planning that I wasn't changing my last name, ever. He agreed to this. I'm an only child, while Fred has 3 brothers. My last name dies with me, while his family's last name will continue on with his 3 brothers who are all married with children. And with this all considered and points made on these facts, I believe there wasn't an issue because Fred agreed to it. I personally hate the tradition of taking on the husband's last name. In my personal, every right to have an opinion, for all of you ready to jump at me in the comments, is an archaic tradition that feels more like the transfer of property to a man than a union. And even though I'm never having children, even the thought of someone else's last name being attached to my hypothetical child's if I do, all 9 months of creating it and wrecking my bod just doesn't sit right with me. On top of that, why should I have to change all my registered IDs and documentation just because I'm a woman? It's not fair. So, it's our wedding day and Fred really pushed to have the ceremony in front of everyone, where we'd sign our marriage license together. He was first to go, and when it was my turn, he had his hand placed really weirdly on the document. I told him to move his hand. We had an awkward, quiet battle about it, and when he finally did, I saw what he was hiding. It was his job to fill out all the forms for the license since he offered to do that for me, so I had one less thing to worry about. And he went behind my back and purposely filled it out so I would be taking his last name. Turns out in Florida, you can put your maiden name and the name you are changing it to on the form, and that's what I saw on the license. Both names. We were at the clerk together with all of our needed IDs and documentation, and I was so stressed and exhausted, I wasn't paying attention. And I freaking trusted him. So I never thought about one day that in any world would I need to review what he filled out to even review the license when he had it in his hand. I refused to make a scene in front of all of our friends and family or fall into the pressure I was under. So I pretended to sign it, and the rest of the night was ruined for me. Everything I thought we agreed to and all my preferences he knew about and he thought he respected were freaking destroyed. It was like my world was ending in what should have been the best day of my life. Fred is now a completely different person. He's all about tradition now and how it's his right to have a wife with his last name. How it's embarrassing that his brother's wives didn't make this an issue for them, and how all his friends will give him crap if I don't change it. He keeps saying that it's not that big of a deal and I'm ruining our future. On top of that, he keeps bringing up the child argument saying we can't both have different last names and they should take mine. We said we didn't want kids. I know it's technically the certificate that changes your last name, but to know this is what he's wanted all along and that he was willing to try and pull one over on me is disgusting. I feel manipulated and heartbroken. And now he's put all the pressure on me to make a decision because time is running out on filing for our marriage certification, and he isn't changing his mind. I feel like I've wasted our guests' time, our and our family's money for the wedding, and now our future together because I let him fool me for 6 years, and I never saw this happening to me. I feel like I've wasted my life, and I'm backed into a corner with someone I don't even recognize anymore. I'm gonna get some flack on this. I don't like either person in this story. They both annoy me. Anyway, I feel sorry for her though. 6 years, and then he takes off his mask and he's like, surprise, I lied! Like, bro, what? You couldn't find like another woman who wanted what you want and you didn't have to wear a mask for 6 years? Like, what? What did you think was gonna happen? I guess some people think, oh, well, you know, they're in a corner, I got him now, but good grief. This one is, what a horrible thing to happen. Okay, I'm done, bye, thank you.